Today on Gamers Couch,
Time stories.
Hello, welcome to the couch. We multiplied.
We have guests. Actually, just one, but...
Well, the duck is a guest too, right? Like always.
Yeah. Oh.
Welcome to the couch. My name is Sarah. I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and with my sweetheart, lovely husband, the grey one here,
The one being stabbed by the hand.
called Daniel, I always do the Gamers Couches on the weekend. And today we have a very special guest. This is Tina, our very good friend, and she played Time Stories with us, which entitles her to have an opinion and to be our very special guest on the couch.
And this is probably one of the more difficult episodes we're going to do, because it's really hard to talk about time stories without spoiling anything, but we try really hard. So if you see jump cuts, that means we spoiled something, and then a future version of ourselves traveled back in time to actually tell you right from that moment how the game works without spoiling anything.
Yeah, we try very hard. We do our best. So, like every week, we go into rules and gameplay first, Daniel's part to explain, and then we all talk about...
when we bring someone in to do that, I can just hear explain and then...
No. You need to earn your dinner tonight. Poor guy. Then we talk about what we liked or not liked about the game, and then we share a few of our funny stories and experiences that we had while playing the game. So, sweetheart, let's explain the time stories.
Well, welcome to the future. You're now an agent in training, kind of working for a time agency that kind of does what time agencies do, as the name implies, travel back in time and fix stuff that went out of hand. That is the premise for time stories. And as I said earlier, it's actually difficult to talk about some of the stuff more in-depth without spoiling it, so this may sound really dry when I'm talking about the mechanics, but they're all applied within a story context. So what you're going to get is, first of all, this will be important later. The insert is pretty nice. You get to choose your player color, which is this piece of wood that you can throw at other players who may decide to do things in a way you're not happy with. Which
never happens.
Might happen in this game. Then you have the player board, which I hope I don't wreck by unfolding, but it is a big player board, and
that's why we're here,
there you go.
Holding the board for you.
Now, there's a couple of important parts on here. In the center is your kind of timeline, time unit, whatever the bar track that's called. And when you start on a time adventure, you only have a limited amount of time. So you put your little marker on here and it just goes down as you do stuff. So don't take too long or you'll get ejected from the timeline and have to start again. Up here is a space to have some map tiles laid out. That will make a little bit more sense in a minute. But you can move around on that place, and that is kind of your overhead map view of the different locations that you can go to. Then there's some spare spaces to put cards in here. There's a space for item cards, which I'll also talk a bit in a minute, and victory conditions. And the main meat of the game actually happens down here, where you can see there's a storage space for cards here, and then slots from A to H, and some more spaces to store stuff. So if you go on a time adventure, please hold this without...
No.
You will grab this stack of cards, and this is actually the adventure that comes with the core game called The Asylum and plays in 1921. And as you might have guessed, since these are all cards, the stack comes on here, and then for each location you go to, and this is not a spoiler yet because this is the base set where everybody will start. You have a base card that has usually an A on there and explains where you are, what you're going to do, and introduces some of the characters and the first location. And as you may already see, these cards kind of form up the location. So during the gameplay itself, you will move your little guy here among these spaces and flip over the cards. Only people who are at a certain space may read a card, and the other players don't necessarily know what happened there. However, you're allowed to tell other players what you've seen. You're just not allowed to read verbatim what's on the cards, so they kind of make it more interesting so that you have to think up of your own words and sentences to describe the words and sentences that you may or may not find on here. And these cards can either introduce you some story fluff stuff, they can...
Can we put the board away?
No.
No. God.
No. They can also introduce new rules or tell you what you'll have to do next. And if it's a rule change or something like that, you actually have to read them out loud, because kind of making a mistake there ruins the game for everybody else as well. Then, as I said earlier, there's a space for items here, and this game comes with a whole bunch of object cards, item cards, and these can be pretty much anything. So when it says object or item, it is not necessarily a...
Can we put the board away now? Please, it's getting...
Please, 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 please.
Actually, this is nice.
No, it's not! I mean, you look handsome and pretty, but still. Gosh.
So these object cards can be, as I said, pretty much anything. The word object might be a bit misleading, but these cards can also introduce, for example, new rules, or well, not just objects, but maybe map tiles, so you kind of are able to explore more of the location that replace older map tiles and just add new stuff in there that you can now move to and all that jazz. If by now you're wondering, well, how are you traveling back? Well, there is a thing called a receptacle, which is these fine folks in this in this scenario. So these are people living in the past, and you just project your consciousness back, and all of these have different stats for, and I guess I have to at least show one or two to make that clear. You have like these characters here, and they come with a little bit of backstory fluff, and luckily this is in German, so most of you might not care about this at all. That's a kind of non-spoiler through obfuscation. And as you can see, these have little colorful symbols here that determine what their skill level is at a particular thing. The boxing glove being combat, the speech bubbles being talking sternly to people, or smooth talking to people, and the little water pipe is, I don't know.
Drugs.
Is it? I think it's something like dexterity.
Drugs.
I don't. Well, obviously these icons match up with icons on the cards that you will reveal whenever it comes to a test. And tests in this game are pretty simple. You just take a number of dice as denoted by the skill you have, and these are these dice who have either blue stars on them or red skulls. You roll the dice and try to, well, roll enough stars to be able to overcome any kind of obstacle that you're facing. And again, this can be anything. This could be something like, hey, you have someone who's trying to punch you in front of you, and the challenge will then say you have to kind of overcome a couple of these shields, and there's regular shields, there's black shields, there's shields with little skull, red skulls on them, shields with the time icon on them, and essentially you're trying to roll the dice, roll the blue stars, and for each blue star you get to remove one of these shields. And if you're not able to remove all the shields, and the enemy might, or the thing might strike back or harm you in some way, you suffer damage, which can be physical damage, but you can also lose time, and that's why there's all these different icons on these things. Your characters, as you can see here, also have health, so they might, well, they don't technically die if you lose all your health. You just lose a bunch of time units and then will respawn at a later point in time, which isn't too bad, but bad for you in terms of trying to explore this adventure. And resistance value, that kind of allows you to buffer up a little bit of the damage you might take through your adventures. And that is, I think, as much as you'll see in terms of gameplay rules. There's some specific stuff. For example, there's a whole bunch of these markers and tokens in here that have all different shapes and colors, and then by themselves don't mean anything at all. Same for these little colorful blips that you can carry around with you. So the game doesn't specify what these mean. Actually, what specifies what these mean comes in this pack of cards. So each scenario might use them in a different way. And mind you, the core game just comes with the Asylum scenario. There's another expansion scenario already available called the Marcy case, and 2 more scheduled for end of year and beginning of next year, I think, that play at different timelines, in different settings. It's already been hinted a little bit at it, that it's not all like real history going on, but more fantastical stuff, something happening in Egypt. It might even have alternate timelines where dragons and magic are a thing. So you don't quite know what to expect from this stack of cards, and quite frankly, that is the fun of the game, trying to explore what's in here and to overcome and see what challenges lie ahead doing all that. What you'll do on your turn is, as I said, you place your guys on those locations, read the cards, try to figure out challenges, and as you do, you lose time units. And if you think you're done, you can move to a different location on the map tiles that I would show on the upper left, but someone is not holding up the game board anyway. And what happens then, the time captain rolls this time captain's die and you lose even more time units. So pretty much everything you do in this game costs you time units, and to successfully make it through one of these decks, you have to make the right choices and to have the knowledge of what are the right choices, meaning you will replay a single scenario a couple of times before being able to master it and then be done with it. And I think I'll leave it at that, and we can
Sounds good.
Go into talking about
what we like.
Not talking about this may be the more difficult segment.
Yeah, there might be either I put huge spoiler and spoiler over, depending on how difficult it is for us to explain something, or I do jump cuts, so bear with us. We try to really not spoil anything during the next 2 sections. The first one being likes and dislikes. And our honorable guest may, if she wants to, start with what she liked or not liked about the game.
Oh, well, there were many things I really liked about this game. First of all, it makes...
And jump cuts. I like jup. I'm being mean.
It makes a really good first impression. You have good material on hand. You get the feeling like you are in a futuristic facility starting off. And the ongoing story also at least got me pretty much into the feeling to be there.
Yeah.
It was written in a way that helped you to get into the story, get into your character, and also the pictures on the cards.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah, they were really in a nice style, and yeah, also the aspect of you needing to work together, but you can't just read out the stuff, but you have to, think of how could you explain what happens there. At one point I was trying to just read out and you...
to stop you right away.
Spoilers!
Yeah, it was
a real-life jump cut.
Yeah, but that was also because of that well-written aspect of it. It was just easier. Yeah. It was just the next best thing to do to me. So that's the first likes I had with this game. And every time we stepped into that story, we had to replay it several times. It was still really exciting
Yeah.
to find the new things, and you had to stop at one point because your time ran off in the last attempt, and you have to start over, and you already have that problem to memorize what did you do in the last run, and you experience many cards anew. Although you have seen them already, and you are like, oh yeah, this or that. But you can do this several times, and I like that. You can do this several times in a week.
Even in an evening, as we will tell you guys later.
And saying several times, just to give you a little bit of context, I think we played this 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
So it took 3 times for us to finish the that first scenario and be on with it. But yeah, I totally agree. You read the cards and then you read something on the card that actually relates to something you've found later in the previous game, and then oh wait, this makes more sense, and or this ties into this and that.
It's not like that when you played a certain location on the map that you just run through the next time. It's pretty much you start all over again, and you interpret all the clues that you get differently just because you know some things that are totally hidden from you in maybe earlier attempts that you played during the scenario. And I have to agree that was actually a very strong point for me too. The way that the clues on the cards are written, first of all, you can interpret them differently, and they just capture you with the storyline that you're in. So the way they are written really gets you to be in the asylum in this case, and have all the mad people around you. So it was just really helpful to not play just a game with mechanics and it's fun, but it really got you into the game, as does the artwork, which is, by the way, gorgeous. So sweetly done.
And now you have to bleep out. I hope you went back.
You said asylum first.
Yeah, but I didn't say what kind of people are in the asylum.
That's just logic. It's not probably not you and me being there, so I hope at least. Well, who knows? But other than that, I really like the insert. That was a thing that I was very happy about. You can even store all the blips that you get when you have to stop in between finishing a round. You can save pretty much, so there's little tiny boxes there, which is lovely. And quality of the components is very good, so I really liked that about it. It's the one thing I don't like. It's the suspense that you have during the game. Like, you want to finish it, you want to know, but your day only has 24 hours. You have to eat, you have to do laundry, and maybe go to work and stuff like that. So there's not enough time to probably play it through like right away. And that suspense was something like, come on, guys, really? So yeah. It's not a dislike, but it's part of the game.
One dislike for me would be that you can replay this game just so often before you know all the things, where they are, you memorize everything. So
well, you certainly don't.
I have actually a pretty bad memory, so we could play this once a month. It would be like a new game to me.
I memorize it.
What's your name? No, but like, there is a chance of an alpha player if you play it with people that know the game with a new group. So
I would put all the fun places.
I think it's even difficult for somebody that knows the game, knows the story, to let the other people really just play and not direct them, but direct them enough to have a funny game. So alpha players like, there's a chance.
You kind of get that through you're only allowed to read your card, but not read them to other players. And even if someone, so all of us made it through this first thing, and still I would say that I guess none of us know more than maybe half of the cards that we encounter. Because you know the cards you've read, and you get a good idea on what's on the other cards from what the other people do, but you actually haven't seen them. So there could be stuff in there. There could also be. I'm I'm not sure, I didn't count, but it feels to me like there's 15 to 20 maybe cards that we didn't see at all.
Yeah.
Because there are pathways or there's branching storylines that you may pursue or may not pursue, and depending on that, you can get to the same spot on 2 different ways. And the game actually remembers that, which is nice, and that is actually one of the main things why you have these tokens, so that you can store a certain state of what you did and carry that with you, and then later in the game say, hey, by the way, do you have this thing? Because that means that you did that other thing earlier, and now we can kind of do something that relates to that or not, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how you felt about that, but even after that last playthrough we had, when we knew everything pretty much about that story, I still had the urge to go like through all the cards and see it. I just wanted to see everything and read everything, because it was really so catching.
Yeah,
and
very much the same feeling.
And also, this is a game where I'm usually a person who just plays a certain kind of characters, like female and a certain. Here I was just like, oh, I'm gonna pick one. They are so different from each other. It's so interesting. I want to try that out. So that's special for me.
Yeah, that's great. So, shall we go on to rating?
I could also say what I liked and disliked about this game.
See, I'm used to talking to one person only on the couch. I'm sorry, babe. Please tell us what you liked about the game. I'm so sorry, man. I don't get any Hannibal Lecter meat tonight.
I'll have to agree with most of what you guys said, of course. But
okay, we can wrap it up.
There's in terms of production quality, yes, this insert is nice, but there's some stuff about that isn't as nice. First of all, this isn't that most sturdy thing, and it may rip, and I've seen some folks who actually had that rip. Then these are very tight, so if you ever made the mistake, as I did, to store your timer in this thing, you may not as easily get it out without kind of ripping this apart. So, yeah, that... maybe a stronger plastic version would be nice. The other components are really nice, though. So all of this, can you?
Yeah, wood on wood.
So this is actually pretty cool. Even the dice are wooden dice, and not just your average plastic dice that are getting thrown in. I think the stuff. So if you haven't gathered by now, this is pretty much Time Stories. The core game is pretty much an engine to play choose-your-own-adventure games in a, well, I guess, social environment with your friends, where everybody plays a bit of that choose-your-own-adventure game, which is totally fine. But the downside, as you said, is I don't replay adventure games that much unless they offer a really different take on things. So let's say for example, I would not necessarily replay an Imperial Assault mission just because it has another trigger in there that we didn't get because we made another choice. However, I would like to play the other storyline arc that introduces a new mission with all that different stuff. That is true to some extent here. So there are some paths, as I said, that kind of direct you through new locations, and there's things happening there that you wouldn't see at all if you went through the other thing. Then again, there's things where you can go to a certain location and then just resolve the challenge in a different way, which has a little bit of different fluff to it, but not that much. And that isn't enough for me to replay this game maybe more than once, and then I would be done with it. And I don't mind that too much, but just be aware. I don't know what the retail price for this is right now. I've just seen it on that local online friendly retailer that wants to have like 40 to 50 euros for that. And if that means you only get 3 to 4 games out of that, and you're not the type of person who would even consider replaying that at all, you might be a little bit annoyed of that. That being said, the expansions then introduce new scenarios and give you all of that again. So you have to see this box kind of as a core box investment for an ongoing thing where you want to play more of these adventures. So if you're in doubt, you may want to sit down and play this at least once to get an idea if this is something for you, and then decide to go all in and purchase the core box. And if it is something for you, you probably will do what I did and get the core box and the first expansion right away, so that you can keep on playing that. And for being a streamlined choose your own adventure, this is way more engaging than a book, obviously, and it has very high production quality with the artwork that's in there, and it felt very much to me like almost playing the board game version of a computer adventure game, in terms of what you're doing, how you're interacting, how you get to store certain things, and discuss what's going on next. And I think every trip we made is like 60 to 90 minutes, something like that, which I guess pretty much fits what they aim for. In terms of theme, and that is really hard to say without spoiling something, but this is kind of now is Halloween looking at my imaginary watch, and let me say as much as this may not be suitable for very small children.
No,
but
what does it say on the box?
I think it says 12 or something, and or up.
12 or up, yeah, and that I think is suitable.
It is certainly
ones.
not horror gory, something like that, but it has some images in there that might be disturbing for little children, so just be aware of that. As I said, without spoiling too much. And in terms of feel, because actually games about time travel are, for some reason, pretty difficult to do right, or to make in a way that feels right. To me, this felt perfect in terms of you play this and you know nothing, and then you play again and you feel like you're crossing your own timeline because you can now shortcut yourself. It's almost like the Harry Potter, you may not meet yourself. Well, it's not, there's no mechanism in there, but it felt that way, like, okay, we can shortcut here, we don't have to talk to him, he has nothing to say while he's doing all that. And but if we go here, we can explore further there, and let's go there, and maybe we find something that lets us know if it's worthwhile to go there, and remember that for the next time, because then we can go the other way. And all that discussion obviously is also what makes this game enjoyable.
A lot of interaction. Well, it's a co-op game, of course, but there's a lot of discussion and interaction between the players at the table, so that's nice. And
if you want to have the time traveling series comparison, the premise is almost as in Quantum Leap, as you jump back in time into someone who is already in that timeline and you're playing as them. However, in terms of theme and interaction and problem solving, this could be a Doctor Who game pretty much, because that it is weird in terms of whom you encounter, how they interact with you, and the theming, at least, of that very first scenario has reminded me of what could have been let's say, 2-part Doctor Who episode in this, which is, again, pretty cool, I think. And there's one big plus that is really difficult to non-spoil something with it, but like the coolest moment, I guess, playing this game is there's a puzzle in there, and when we solve that after maybe 20-30 minutes discussion on how to figure everything together, that felt like a genuine achievement of what we did as players, and not like a, well, your typical, oh yeah, that's a puzzle and then you do this. It is almost like a full-blown riddle that isn't easily told or hinted at. You have to figure some stuff out, and that is very rewarding, and that I think was also the high point of the entire scenario.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So can we rate now and then come back to that story with the experiences?
And future me will rate this game in some fashion, I guess. He will come back and then...
Sweetheart. you're still only a real person. You're not a time traveler. Please rate it now. I'm sorry to destroy your dreams and limit your imagination.
The Daniel add-on.
Oh yeah, I wanna have that. I would buy it right away. So, going down the line, let's rate.
No.
So I would certainly give this a...
Well, to me, I would say it's a great game. It's a great game. You can get in pretty fast, and it gives you a good feeling. And I was even thinking sometimes about the game when we were not playing it. So it's definitely a really good game, really compelling. But to me, there's that big draw of just being able to play it so often before you know everything, and it's not compelling anymore.
Yeah.
So I would give it an 8 out of 10.
So I'm having a very similar rating from 1 to awesome. It's a 9 just because of the replayability. With all the rest, I can live like my hubby having 2 thick fingers for getting some things out of the inserts. That's my job. I have to have a job too. But it's a solid 9, and replayability is the only deduction kind of thing to not have it an awesome. But I'm really looking forward to future scenarios, which is a perfect way for now to tell us a bit about experiences and funny stories that we had while playing this game sometimes. And I'm getting back to the riddle thingy.
Beep,
that was
beep, 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 beep.
no beep, beep, beep,
And then
no.
we beep, beep.
No, generally said, I really enjoyed myself when we played it. Like we said, we had to have 3 attempts to complete the scenario, and there was no moment where I thought, oh, this is now I'm just sitting here waiting for you to figure out things. I already know the stuff that I need to know, but it's all the time I was really engaged with the game, which I really like. Even when we replayed certain steps throughout the game just to get things that we needed. So it was never boring.
Objects.
It was never boring, I think.
Are we just going to replace every word that spoils with things?
Yeah,
because it's gonna be interesting then.
Yeah,
Well, we
the
can
thing with the thing
object
with the thing.
that.
Object. Oh, okay, object. Objection! So, yeah, I really I really liked it. It was never boring. It never felt like 60 or 90 minutes at the table.
No.
It was like, oh, we run out of time again? So, goddamn, let's play it again. And then you realize, oh, it's almost midnight. You gotta work tomorrow. It's like, ooh, shit, we gotta wait some days until we get back together and have another attempt. So it was like, little child, like, I want to play now. But it was, the third attempt was really the best one, I think. Just because we had the riddle solving kind of issue.
But interestingly enough, the first and the second attempt were so different in terms of stuff we've seen and where we've gone, and the third one was literally the informed playthrough kind of, that now we know kind of what's in this direction, now we know what's in that direction, now let's try to go for whatever, the best of both worlds, and grab all the stuff we deem important to progress to the end.
And even after the third playthrough, we still could have, solved that whole game in like 3 different ways. Yeah,
so many paths, and
at least it feels like that. We actually don't know because we haven't played through these, so it could be that this is all nonsense that we're telling you. But since we're talking spoiler-free nonsense anyway, you may object to what we have to tell you about this.
If you do, leave it in the comments. We would be very interested. Another thing that I really liked is sometimes when you have these adventure games where you have to solve a riddle or whatever, the collecting parts of clues is way more difficult than actually solving the riddle, and I thought this was not the case here. It was really difficult to solve it, and it was That was actually something that I really, really liked. Us just sitting there like that on the table for like half an hour, everybody just racking their brain how to solve that goddamn riddle. And then, of course, you have way more satisfaction and kind of an adrenaline rush or something when you finally make it. It's like, yay, we made it. It's not like, yeah, we got the clues. It's obviously that done with the game. So I really liked how that moment that we had at the table is like, okay, and now we have to play in the next scenario, but not too early because the next one's only coming out in December, so we gotta have some time in between, play some other games. So it was just really enjoyable.
There's actually another thing that I wasn't that happy about. Starting with our third playthrough, there's a small rule change that makes the how not to say this without spoiling
it changes
anything.
The time track a bit.
Yeah, it changes something how the time track works and makes it less important, and that is kind of unfortunate because to me, this is kind of one of the major mechanics of the game. You have that limited amount of time to go forward, and at least softening that up, that restriction makes I don't think that's that great to be honest. It's cool then to say, okay, now we can go through and finish the adventure, or what we don't want to do. But I don't think that's that great that you have to throw out or have to reduce the impact of your things to make stuff easier. I understand that this is a storytelling kind of adventure game, and that's another thing in terms of gameplay experience. Those checks that happen in there, the die rolls, they could have also almost skipped that because they have some impact if you roll really badly.
Like I always do, so I'm not allowed to be the time captain anymore.
But they're in the grand picture of things, they're not that really deciding factor for how the story is going to go on. Which, on the other hand, I think makes that puzzle thing that we solved at the end way more interesting because that was a genuine challenge. Different to what the die rolls do in terms of you have to overcome this to get forward or you're stuck, and then it's also very not so much easy as rolling dice until you get the thing done. So since the ultimate penalty for you is to lose time units when you're not making the challenges because you have to retry, or even if you get wounded and get out of or thrown out of your host, kind of you lose time units. So losing time units is the kind of penalty for anything you might do in this game that is suboptimal. And then by making time units not as important anymore later on, I think there should be a bigger try again version of this that still keeps time units as relevant as in the first playthroughs, and then later on just tries to ease your way into this in a different fashion maybe.
I'm just wondering, and I mean,
Where are
I
you
see
going to wander to?
To the kitchen, getting more coffee. Now, I guess I know why they did the time track change, because if time at a certain point is still so important, there might be players that just put the game on the shelf because they're stuck at the same point over and over again, and they run out of time over and over again at a certain point. I remember, like, game 1 and 2, there was a real sense of rush and really running out of time, which added to the other suspense that comes with the game. But I imagine if you play like attempt 7, you're stuck at this again, and you're running. You put it on the shelf and it's like, so I guess agree. That's why they put it in. But I don't know how to have it different.
I think it was too early.
Too early. Would you be fine with like try 5 or 6? This mechanic.
I would maybe vouch for an option.
You can do it or not do
You can do this, or you can do something else to ease the game. At this point, I think there should be another option because, like Daniel said, I think it
was a bit early.
It was a bit early for my taste, but I can imagine people, being kind of frustrated about, not solving the game earlier. So I think it would be an option.
There could be like maybe something like a card. You can either choose to go the route that is suggested with the game, or you can take a card and have an additional clue maybe to solve the riddle, but still on the time track without the changes. Maybe something like that.
But with that change and making it largely inconsequential, they kind of force you to win this game on your third or maybe fourth run through. And given the things we said earlier that you don't really replay this game, probably, I guess some folks would get a kick out of that, playing this maybe with a different group, but even then it would mean you play it 5 times or 6 times, and that is not that much, I think, for what I would get out of pretty much any other game in the same kind of price range. I mean, this is I'm totally aware this is not your typical card game that you bring out every dinner and play this over the course of 3 years, once or twice per week. But I would have hoped for this to be played more often than 3 or 4 times at least. So that is actually the only downer for me.
So people bring out the expansions way quicker.
Yeah.
So that we can have another scenario once every 2 months.
I would go so far to say I would have hoped for them to put the first expansion into the core game to make it worthwhile the price. Maybe I'm unrealistic there, but that is kind of my gut feeling.
I don't know how production costs are with this game. I can guess with other games or just kind of roughly calculate, but not with this one so much.
Then again, given that each scenario is just this stack of cards, they could be really cheap, which they also aren't. I actually would have had to look this up, but I think they're like 20 or 25 euros per expansion, and that is still quite a lot. And you can get a full other game for that usually.
Yes, you can.
On the other hand, maybe they just knew that they have something on hand that's going to be pretty popular, and they could
and
get
it's
away
very
with it.
different.
Or they said, well, maybe this is a risky try, and we'll see how we're surprised how popular that actually turned out to be.
But it really is very different from the major range of games that we do own. There's it kind of is close to Mice and Mystic, with the story, and we probably don't replay Mice and Mystic that much, but we could. But other than that, it's really, the only one on our shelf of this mechanic.
I think that is actually a pretty good comparison with, let's say, Legends of Endor or Mice and Mystics. But maybe I'm wrong, but I thought we had more plays over longer duration with both of these games.
Yeah, because we sucked so badly with Mice and Mystic for once. But more with the second book than the first book. Legends of Andor, there was more we solved the game. We didn't play that scenario again. And the new scenario, we had so many other games that had to be played, so we didn't play the second one.
I mean, in terms of content that is given to you within the box, I think we had more playtime on average with Endor or Mice and Mystics than we had.
Very much. We played, I could look it up in my book, but we played 3 times with Time Stories, and we played I think 10 or 15 times Mice and Mystic, and at least 5 times just the base game of Andor. Not counting any expansions or second pick game or something.
Having to replay something because we failed the mission, which kind of we did here as well. So that's...
Yeah, it's not that we replayed because we just wanted to play that chapter again. we failed, we had to try again.
And a game like Andor has more going on mechanically, but it's obviously less involving with the story. But actually, thinking about that, they share some similarities with Andor, where you have to
draw your challenges. You don't see them all.
New stuff goes on, and you know what will happen on later playthroughs, but it's way more linear, obviously. Than
the thing that sets these two games apart, like Time Stories and Andor, for example, you're stuck in a certain world. With Andor, you will probably experience way different worlds with Time Stories, so it's a plus there.
Yeah.
You get diversity.
I'm certainly looking forward to pretty much every scenario they want to come up with in the future, and I'm excited to see what they do with different settings. And
there's so much more opportunity there for them to have a cool story being told, because this is actually just really cool stories being told, and coming up with very different ones is just that game is made for it. So any last thoughts or words that you want to share with the vast...
last words before the duck may massacre you for taking his screen estate?
No, I'm just looking forward to the food.
After this, it's dinner time for us. And I have to, like I said, I have to go to the kitchen. Food. Yeah, so let's wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts for the guys at the internets? No. Okay.
Yes, in fact, I have a thought or two.
Can you please stop talking? I want food.
My first thought is you can like this video. My second thought is you can subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more of us goofing around, or find us on Board Game Geek and check out the geek list there. And my third thought is goodbye.
With the hugest hands. So thank you for watching. Again, comments, questions, comment section below, and we will see you next Sunday with a new game on the Gamer's Couch, and I will see you tomorrow with a new art journal, the first one for November, coming up on the channel. So thank you and goodbye.
Bye bye.